Dopamine sites in South Korea. What is this, right? Ventures dedicated to celebrating the birthdays of K-pop idols. Oh my gosh. Yo, this is so interesting, right? This is one of the things that Korea has brought to the world. Dating can be hard in South Korea, so the monks stepped in. I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. 안녕하세요, Professor Sam here. To all of my subscribers, you are my new students. And many of you have asked, as my students asked me in my class, like how I find the information that I find, the news that I find. What I want to do is share the process that I use to kind of go through how I see a story, how I read a story. These are all just really pretty random articles that I found, and I haven't read through them, so I don't even know what they say. I just saved them up for this video. Let's get started with the first article. Okay, so here's this article that I found on CNN. It's actually a video. Dopamine sites in South Korea. They feature fake cigarettes and food deliveries. Okay, and I see this and I think, wait, dopamine sites in South Korea. What is this, right? So it turns out that, so you go to this site and you pretend to buy things and they don't actually show up at your door and you don't actually pay for things, but you go through the process of clicking on your buttons and purchasing things, you know? So it's like, it satisfies something in the mind. Now, for me, this is fascinating because it kind of is emblematic, as we say, or it's an example of kind of late stage capitalism in which the capitalist system survives on consumption. And you have to have lots of consumers and you got to get people in the process of just consuming for the sake of consuming. Even they're not necessarily buying things that they need, they just have to buy. And so people don't need as many things as are available, but we get caught in this process of feeling satisfied when purchasing something. You know, you can feel satisfied by watching the birds, or you can feel satisfied by taking a walk, but you can also feel satisfied and get meaning from buying things. And so that's what this website does. It's really fascinating. And in many ways, it's probably a really good service. So once again, like Koreans are out ahead of the rest of the world because probably people in every culture should have these dopamine websites where people could just purchase things that they don't really need and they don't really want, and it doesn't cost them anything. How awesome. Okay, let's switch to another one. So here's this. Idol devotion. Inside Seoul's birthday cafes where fans gather to celebrate their favorite stars. Okay, now this, okay, what is this? In Hongdae neighborhood, it's famous for its many cafes. On any given day, you'll see a glass door and another poster of the same smiling face. They're not advertisements in paper, they're birthday cafes. Wow, specialized ventures dedicated to celebrating the birthdays of K-pop idols. So for a few days around the idol's birthday, these coffee shops transform into galleries devoted to the superstar. Oh my gosh, right? So you go in and there are photographs and people leave messages and yo, this is so interesting, right? This is one of the things that Korea has brought to the world. In the West, we don't do this. Idolize, right? They're called idols. Like idolize is a word in English, meaning that you put somebody on a pedestal and you hold them in very positive regard. So maybe like teachers or professors or something like that, but this is idolizing the idols, these K-pop stars, in a really profound way. So you go celebrate their birthdays. This does not happen in the United States at all. Wow, so you go to an event. So it's like you can participate in a birthday party, so to speak, with your favorite idol as a fan. And you do it with other fans. So it looks like you're kind of doing it by yourself, but your other fans are involved. And so you can feel like, hey, you're at a birthday party for your favorite idol. And you know what? K-pop, or really the Korean wave in so many ways. The entire wave is built upon the fans being able to engage in a new way. And, using, for example, with these touch points, we call them, in the world of technology, that's what we call them. So meaning that I as a fan can touch, I have many different points in which I can touch the thing that is being celebrated, right? Or being sold to me. Because let's face it, like culture, music, dramas, all of it is being sold to me, right? In a way. And then I can participate, right? So Korea has led the world in developing these very complex touch points whereby I as a fan can touch this thing that I am consuming and I'm celebrating. So it's really been brilliant, by the way, and this is the fuel of the Korean wave. Here's one. All right, now this I would see. Okay, K-pop broke taboos by being inclusive. Okay, so now me as a sociologist, I see the word taboo, I see the word inclusive. I'm like, all right, what does this mean? It just captures my interest, right? Okay, now K-beauty is starting to do the same. All right, what's it doing? Let's see, these days attend any K-pop concert and you'll find a crowd of diverse fans from all over. This is actually really interesting because I'm going to KCON in August in LA. And one of the things you find at KCON here in the United States, especially at a place like LA, is an incredible diversity of fans. Okay, so South Korea's pushed to reboot. Despite being one of the nation's top cultural experts, K-beauty has struggled to cater to a broad demographic. Yeah, and also before I even read this, I'm hoping now that this is going to say something about an issue or something that I've been thinking about a lot, because I've been watching K-beauty really expand to bring in people with many different types of skin. So K-beauty has not really reached out to people with medium and dark skin tones, which is most of the world, by the way. So look here, K-Brown's first product is this biomimetic serum designed to improve moisture in a darker skin. Yeah, exactly. I'm telling you, this is the future. Girls with darker skin tones, with hijabs, Latinas, Afro-Americans, there's so much enthusiasm for people of color for K-pop. Yep. That's right. Look at this advertisement. That is the world, my friends. That is the world. Yeah, that's what I see in my class. Wow, that's pretty cool. So this is an example of K-beauty really, really, truly taking an important step in conquering the world. Yeah. So here's something. This is in the Korea타임즈. Korea's fake news law is enforced. What you need to know. Okay. This is going to grab my attention, okay, because clearly this is a big issue. So Korea's Revised Information and Communications Network Act, the fake news law, came into force, reshaping how unlawful information is handled online. This is important, right? Because this is now censorship, and this is something that I'm really working on all the time. I'm thinking about, right? What is fake information? What's false or manipulated information? People take my videos and they manipulate my videos. Take a little piece out of this part of a class and another piece out of this part of the class, and then they'll make an argument that I'm saying one thing when I'm actually saying the opposite. And so this is an issue that's really important to me. And I've been in trouble in the past with my university because of fake news. So for me, this really hits home, and I'm really interested to see how Koreans are talking about this. So the revision also introduced a new category of illegal hate or discriminatory expression that covers posts that incite violence, discrimination, or hatred against individuals or groups based on race, nationality, or gender. Okay, so my first thing is, wait, hang on a second. What about based on ideology, right? So sociologically, this is what I've been studying for 40 years. Race, nationality, gender. Well, how do you decide what is discriminatory or hate? What produces hate, Because I'm talking about something in my videos, people who don't like what I'm saying or what's being said by students in class, they'll say like, oh, this is inciting hate or inciting discrimination. And I think, oh my God. So I think this is really interesting. I would have a whole conversation about this. In fact, in my mind right now, I look at this and I think, hey, you know what? Do a class on this in the fall and have 2 Korean students talking about this particular law, and then have 2 students from other cultures talking about it. And let's see how students think about who suffers from hate and what's suffering and what's it mean. Okay, this is a future class for me. Let's look at, here's another Korea Times article. Seoul ramps up elder care initiatives to combat isolation and digital exclusion. This is interesting to me because I ride the subways and that's where I see people on their phones a lot. And I see elderly people on their phones, older people, much old, in their 80s, and sometimes they look like they're in their 90s, and I see them on their phones, doing things. And I think, wow, man, I'm always trying to look to see what it is that they're doing. But all right, so let's look at this. Donghengonda taxi service, right? A subsidized mobility program aimed at bridging the digital divide for a demographic excluded from smartphone-based hailing networks. Yeah, I wonder about that because everything is online, in Seoul. And here in the United States, increasingly, even though older Koreans are very advanced in terms of being able to use mobile devices, it's still, this stuff is complicated. Here's a funny story. Last night I wanted to order pizzas for Lori and I. And I opened up Gemini, which is an AI platform, and I said, okay, I'm living in State College, Pennsylvania, and I want to order 2 pizzas. What do I have to do? Where do I go? Where should I order them, and what do I have to do? And I just let AI just explain to me exactly what to do, what app I need on my phone. Now, I'm very technologically advanced, okay? But there are some things I'm not advanced on, and one is buying things online because I don't buy a lot of things. The reason is because it's a waste of money, but don't tell anyone that. Okay, so I had to actually go to AI and figure out, how do I do that? And I ordered pizza successfully, by the way, except that I missed something that I could click on the button to actually ring my doorbell and hand them to me, or just leave them at my door, and I missed that button because at some point I looked at my phone and I said, wait, our pizza should be here. I looked at my phone and they were already delivered and they were sitting outside my door. I'm like, okay, next time I'll be thinking about what I have to do. Okay, well, there it is. The mayor is anticipating that, and he's saying, yeah, we're going to have these places that allow people get what they need without having to use advanced technology. That's thinking. Here's an article that absolutely grabbed my attention as soon as I saw the headline. Dating can be hard in South Korea, so the monks stepped in. I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. A monk draped in burnt orange. Yeah, there's the young men and women. Participants are nervous, stealing glances. This is not a new hit reality show. It's a real-life dating retreat held at an 8th century Buddhist temple. 30-hour affair. Oh man. Okay, it's featuring back-to-back activities and a steady stream of awkward moments and breaking the silence. Buddhists have always been the first to take action when our country is in trouble, like when they were defending Korea against the Japanese in the 1500s. But this time the threat isn't from abroad, it's low birth rates. Okay, awesome. So it looks like young people applied to be part of this program. Wow, almost 1,600 people applied to be part of this retreat in which the Buddhists would help people. These Buddhist monks would help people to find a partner. Okay, this is cool, right? Here they are having one-on-one conversations. Oh, this is awesome. Okay, so this is pretty cool. All right, well, anyway, listen, this is an example of me, how I think through news, how I think through issues, how I gather ideas around which I can build my classes. I'm scrolling through news and I grab articles and I save them and I put them aside and I then analyze them. And sometimes, I'm in this room. I could be in here for 3, 4, or 5 hours just doing what I call a deep dive into information. It's really a lot of fun But that's how it is. If you watch videos that I make, it just seems like I'm just kind of talking about things, but where do I get my ideas? Well, I get them by doing deep dives. So anyway, thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate it. I really like discovering on video what it is that I'm seeing in the world, especially the world in Korea. So 감사합니다. Thank you.